Good morning, everyone. Today I am going to start unit number 1, Introduction to Computers and the Computing. This unit will help you to understand what is a computer actually is, how it works, how it evolves over time, and what are the different types of computer system exist around us. Now the next one is syllabus. We will begin with the evaluation of computers where we will see how machine develop from large vacuum tube system to today's small and powerful microchip. Then we will understand the classification and the basic organization of computer system. Next, we will discuss the types of computers such as supercomputer, mainframe, and the embedded system. Finally, we will cover the concept of hardware, software, and the firmware. Now, the next one is the course objective and outcome. So, objective of this unit is to help you gain the fundamental understanding of how computer evolve, how they are classified, and how their internal components function. We will also connect the theoretical concept with practical understanding, like identifying the different computer parts, assembling system, and knowing how they are work together. By end of this unit, you should be able to explain the evaluation of computer and describe the basic organization of computer system. Now let us understand what is the information processing system. In computing, everything begin with the data, which is just raw and the unorganized fact. When the data is processed and organized in meaningful way, it becomes information. For example, if you have a list of marks scored by the student, that's the data. But when you calculate the class and the highest score, it becomes information. So here the computer is an electronics machine that process the data according to the instruction and produce the useful information as a output called as a information processing system. So in this diagram it represents the information processing system. Here the data is converted into the meaningful information. Now the next one is the function of information processing system. So every information processing system perform four basic functions. It accepts the data as the input, then process that data, store it for the future use, and finally present it as output. For example, when we type a report on computer, typing is the input, editing, formatting are the processing, saving is the storage, and the printing and displaying the document as output. So these are the four functions in the form of foundation of how the computers are work. Now the next one is the major component, hardware, software and the peopleware. A computer system made up of three major components, hardware, software and the peopleware. Hardware is a physical part of computer, the things we can touch like monitor, keyboard or CPU. Software is a set of program that tells the hardware what to do. For example, Windows or MS Word. Peopleware refers to the user, that's you and me, who operate and control the computer system. Now the next one is the basic units of measurement. So all the data in the computer system is measured in bits and bytes. Bits is a small unit of data and can have only two values, 0 and 1. 8 bit that makes one byte and a byte that usually enough to represent a single letter or a number. When bytes are grouped together, so we will get a larger unit called as kilobyte, megabyte, gigabyte and a terabyte. Now the next one is what is a computer? A computer is a programmable machine that accept input, process it, store it, and produce output according to the set of instruction. It does not have its own intelligence. It work only when we give it proper command. So, in the simple term, a computer help us to process the data into the useful information with the great speed and the accuracy. Now the next one is the functionalities of computer. A computer system performs five major functions. It takes data as input, store it temporarily or permanently, process is to create the meaningful output, display or print the result, and finally it control the unit, manage all these steps. So this is the functionality of computer as an efficient and reliable tool for all types of data handling. Now, computer offer the several important advantage. They work at very high speed, performing the million of calculation in second. They are extremely accurate, producing error-free result if the input and instruction are correct, called as accuracy. Then computer have the vast storage capacity and can store all kind of data, text, image, audio or video, called as a storage capability. The computer never get tired and bored, so this property is called a diligence. They are also versatile, meaning they can perform many types of tasks from the playing games to solving scientific problems. In addition, the computer reliable and continuously work without break. They also they also automated repetitive tasks, reduce the paperwork and the low operational cost in long run. Computer have some limitation. They have no intelligence and emotions, so they can't think or make decision on their own, called as no IQ. They are fully dependent on human input, called as a dependency. They need a suitable environment free from dust and excessive heat, called as an environment. They have no feeling, they simply execute what they are programmed to do, called as a no feeling. Now the next one is the characteristics of computer. So computer operate at tremendous speed and provide accuracy in every task, called as a accuracy and the speed. Now once it is started, they work automatically and following the given instruction, called as automatic operation characteristics. They have large storage capacity, allowing us to store the data permanently, called as a storage. They are versatile and performing the multiple operation and the function, but they have no intelligence. They are only follow the given command, called as a no intelligence. Now the next one is the components of computer system. So a computer system consists three main unit: input unit, central processing unit, and the output unit. Input unit help us to enter the data, for example using keyboard or mouse. CPU is also called as a brain of computer that process the data and control all the operation. And the last one is output unit. So output unit basically used to display or print the process information such as on monitor or the printer, called as a output unit. Now the next one is the hardware. So the hardware is a tangible component of computer. So tangible component means that component we can move from one place to another place, called as a tangible component. For example, it includes the input devices like keyboard, mouse, and the output devices like monitor, printer, and the storage devices like hard disk or CD. So inside the system, we also have the CPU, motherboard, and the memory unit. So CPU, next one is the basic hardware of the personal computer system. The first component is the central processing unit, also called as the CPU. CPU handles the calculation and the logical operation. So that's why it is called as the brain of the computer system. Now the next one is the memory unit. Memory unit like your RAM and ROM that can store the data permanently and temporary. So RAM is a temporary. The data disappear when power is off, and the ROM is a permanent that holds the instruction used during the startup. So these are the input devices: keyboard, mouse, joysticks, microphone, webcam. Output devices like monitor, audio speaker, printer. Secondary storage devices means the secondary memory where we can store the permanent data. For example, floppy disk, hard disk, CD-ROM. Now the next one is the software. So software is a refers to the program that tells the hardware what to do. So there are the two major categories of the software: system software and the application software. System software means that operates the hardware and provides the platform for the other software called as a system software. For example, it includes Windows, Mac OS, and the Linux. And the application software that helps the user to performing the specific task, like Microsoft Word for the writing, Excel for the spreadsheet, and the PowerPoint for the presentation. So without system software, the application cannot run, and without application, the system has no use for the user. Now the next one is the generation of computers. So generation of computer means the history of computers. So history of computer is divided into the five generation based on the technology. So this picture is show the five generation computers start from 1G to 5G. So the first generation computer was developed between the 1940 to 1956. So here the first generation computer used vacuum tubes for the processing purpose, and there is a magnetic drums for the data storage purpose. These are the main key feature of the first generation computer. So in the first generation computer, the main electronics component is called as vacuum tube. Memory is called as a magnetic drums and the tapes. And here we use the machine language for the machine language, the programming language. Now it consumes the lots of electricity, so that's why it generates the lots of heat. The advantage of the first generation computer is it was only the electronics device, and that holds the it is the first device that holds the data or the memory. But disadvantage is too bulky, that is large in size, vacuum tube burn frequently, they are producing heats and the maintenance problem. So overcome that limitation by using the second generation computer. So second generation computer was developed 1956 to 1963. So in the second generation computer use the transition which is made up computer small and more reliable. So here transistor that replaced by the vacuum tubes. In the second generation computer use the higher programming language like COBOL and the Fortran. These are the main feature of the second generation. The main components is use transistor, magnetic core, and magnetic tape disk is a memory for the data storage purpose. Assembly language is used here, and it required the low power consumption and generate the less heat as compared than the first generation. The advantage of the second generation is size reduced considerably. They are very fast, very much reliable, and the disadvantage is they are overheated quickly and again maintenance problem. Now the next one is the third generation. Third generation introduced Third generation was developed between 1964 to 1971. So third generation introduced integrated circuit that allowing to faster processing and the smaller in size. So here your integrated circuit replaced by the transistor in the third generation. So here transistor are mini placed in the silicon chip, so it is called as a semiconductor. So instead of punch card and print out, the user interact with the third generation computer through the keyboards, monitor, and the interface with the operating system. These are the main key feature of the third generation. The main electronics component is the integrated circuit. So here we use the magnetic core and magnetic tape disk for the data storage purpose. Higher programming language is used here, and the size is smaller, cheaper, and more efficient than the second generation computer. The advantage of third generation computer is ICs are very small in size, improved performance, and the production cost cheap, but disadvantage is IC sophisticated. Now the next one is the fourth generation. So the first fourth generation computer was developed between 1971 to present. Here to introduce the microprocessor. So in the microprocessor brought a fourth generation computer as the thousands of integrated circuit were built on the single silicon chip. From the central processing unit and the memory to input output controller placed on a single chip in the fourth generation. So fourth generation computer also saw the development of GUI, graphical user interface, mouse, and the handheld devices. These are the main key feature of the fourth generation of computer. The main component is VLSI, very large scale integration, and the microprocessor chip introduced here. Then memory, so semiconductor memory used here like RAM and the ROM. Then programming language, high level programming language used in the fourth generation computer, and a mix of both third and fourth generation language used in the third generation computer. Now the fourth generation computer uses the introduce the input and output devices like keyboard, pointing device, optical scanning, monitor, printer, etc. And here is also used the concept of network. Network means the group of more two or more computer system that link together. Now the next one is the fifth generation computer. So fifth generation computer is based on the artificial intelligence and using the technology like parallel processing and the natural language understanding. So these are the key feature of the fifth generation computer. So the main electronics computer component is based on the AI and ULSI, ultra large scale integration technology, and it is also used the concept of parallel processing method. So here in the fifth generation computer uses the understand the natural programming language, and it consumes the less powers and generates the less heat. So the diagram shows the fifth generation computer. Now the next one is the types of computer. So computer can be classified in main two types by technology wise, and the second one is by size. By technology, we have analog, digital, and hybrid computer. So analog computer that works with continuous data, and a digital computer works with the binary data, which is represent zeros and one, and a hybrid computer to use the features of analog as well as the digital. So, for the example of hybrid computer is in the hospital ICU, the analog device might measure the patient temperature, blood pressure, and the vital signs. Now, the next one is the types of computer on the basis of size. So, there are the different types of computer: supercomputer, mainframe computer, mini computer, and the microcomputer. Supercomputer. Supercomputer is a supercomputer means the supercomputer are most powerful, and that computer is used for the scientific research and the weather forecasting. Now the next one is the mainframe computer. So mainframe computer handles the large scale business operations such as banking and the airline reservation application. Then next one is the mini computer. So mini computer are smaller and cheaper version that used for the medium scale task. And the last one is a microcomputer, which is includes the desktops, laptops. So they are the most common today. Now the last one is the embedded system. So embedded system is a small computer that built into the larger machine or a device to perform a specific task. It includes the processor, memory, and the input output devices. For example, For example, include the washing machine, micro ovens, air conditions, means AC, and the smart TV. In each case, embedded system controls the operation automatically, such as timing, temperature, or the display setting. Now the next one is a firmware. Yes, next one is the firmware. So, firmware is a very important layer between the hardware and software. Firmware is a special kind of software that permanently store in the hardware. Often on the RAM and the flash memories are used. It contains the low level instruction that helps to device start and operate. For example, for example, when you switch on your computer, the BIOS firmware initialize the hardware and loads the operating system. So here the firmware is coordinate the hardware activity and ensure the smooth communication between the hardware and the high level software. So these are the different functionality of the firmware: booting and the running system, providing the input output services, then providing the debugging services, and providing the backdoor for the system recovery and the maintenance. So they are the different types of firmware includes BIOS and the UEFI firmware. Second one is